Hello, everybody. Welcome to my Spider-Man No Way Home spoiler review. As you can see at the beginning of the video, there is a spoiler alert there. We will be going fully in-depth on this film, and you guys are going to get a in-depth look at what we thought. We are going to be talking about everything, literally fucking everything. So this is your final warning. I'm going to say it once more. Spoiler warning. We are going through literally everything that happens in this movie. And before you start, I want to say that this film does pick up right where Far From Home ended, or at least the post-credit scene ended, and it literally follows Peter Parker from there. And not even fucking like 10 minutes into the movie, there is already one huge surprise, and that is
Charlie Cox is back playing Daredevil. Well, he's not. He's not in his suit yet.
Yep.
But he is back as his role as Matt Murdock, and I loved the TV show personally. I think it's one of the best TV shows ever made.
I agree.
And just seeing him reprise his role without like seeing anything really in the marketing for him. Obviously, it's like, okay, you see Alfred Molina, you see Willem Dafoe, you see all these past Spider-Man villains, so your brain goes, okay, Tobey and Andrew are in the movie. But like in regards to Peter's like legal situation with him killing Mysterio, it's like it's not really hinted at as much. And so seeing him reprise his role definitely excites me for the MCU, and I definitely found myself like reminding myself like, oh, he's back. Like he's back as Daredevil, and it's interesting to see, and I really hope that they bring back those characters from the Defenders, like Luke Cage, Iron Fist, maybe like Jessica Jones, but and even the side characters too that were in Daredevil. Punisher, doesn't matter, but I would definitely say that is a good part of the movie.
I agree. I actually found it quite surprising. I wasn't expecting it. I personally, I didn't really like. We heard leaks about it like 6 months ago, probably longer than that, and so like I wasn't really expecting it. And when I saw it, I was really excited. And the first time I saw it was at a press screening, so I had to keep my fucking mouth shut. But I raised my hands in the air, and there were people behind me trying to contain their excitement. So it was a really great surprise. And before we get into any like bigger spoilers, I do want to point out that this is very much Tom Holland's movie. His Peter Parker goes through a lot of shit in this film regarding the villains, specifically one villain who does something pretty horrible, and it's impactful. It punches really hard. Holy shit, it hurts. It genuinely hurt me. Like, I was not expecting it, and it fucking hurt me. This dude thought that Happy was gonna die.
I did.
And nope. Aunt May dies. She's fucking dead. It fools you for a second because initially you think she's okay, but then she fucking just dies, and it's heartbreaking. And what makes it so much more impactful is that she's kind of like a driving force of Peter's motivation in this film, and it really, really just it's like Tom Holland's Peter Parker's Uncle Ben, in a way. And it kind of motivates him to start becoming his own Spider-Man, even though that's what he's been trying to do since the beginning of the trilogy. You can finally see him coming into that role in this film. And Tom Holland fucking knocks it out of the park. It was fantastic seeing that. It's such an impactful film. It's very emotional. There's a lot of sequences where it's just... It's harsh, man. When Tom Holland said this movie is brutal, he was not lying. It's brutal. And another thing that I love is that the usage of nostalgia in this film is a lot more important than it seems in the trailers. It actually impacts the story a lot, and this is what other films need to take note of. The use of nostalgia in this film is fantastic because it helps drive the story in the best way it can. Instead of just having it be fan service, it is a huge fucking part of the story and what eventually leads Tom Holland's Spider-Man into becoming, well, Spider-Man. And it's very important. It's kind of what Spider-Verse did, but I think even better than what Spider-Verse did. So I loved it.
And I'll say this, like with future films coming out, like Flash, with like Michael Keaton's Batman being in that movie, like this is just a side note because you said like nostalgia is good, yes, but whenever it's used correctly, like it was in this movie with like, because the scene where Ned's like, all right, well we need to find Peter, and then he opens up the portal, and you're just like, oh shit, like that's not Spider-Man, like that is, but it's not ours. And then it's like Andrew, he comes in, you're like, oh my god, it's him. And then you're like the shock sets in, you're just like, yes, finally, like they listened to us and it's finally happening. And then he's like, let's look for another Peter until we find ours. And he's like, and then like Tobey Maguire comes in, and you're just like, oh my god, like this is crazy. And you're thinking it's like, this is still like, we've still got some time left in this movie.
Yep, it's the entire third act.
Yeah, and you're just, and for me especially, like I knew that they were going to be in the movie, and I knew that it was like they were going to be a part of it, but I was scared that it was going to be like, the way I thought of it was like in the trailer, whenever he's like, they're coming through, I can't stop it, and then that's whenever Tom Holland is like fighting the villains alone. And then that's whenever they come in, so they're in there for like maybe like 10, 15 minutes. But the fact that they were like helping Peter become his own Spider-Man, because they didn't have the Avengers. They didn't have these other, Iron Man Junior boy tropes, which Tom Holland doesn't either. But they don't have those characters to be around. They are just their own Spider-Man, which is perfect. And to hear Andrew Garfield's character address the criticisms from TASM and just the bickering and the
just say the Amazing Spider-Man.
I'm just gonna say TASM. It's easier.
He's referring to the Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay, my bad. The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's I feel that heroes and villains alike, this movie fleshes out every single aspect of every character on screen.
Yeah.
Except Doctor Strange.
It's what they're able to do with Tobey and Andrew. Again, it's nostalgia, yeah, but it's to bring forward a different version of Spider-Man. It's to show how this Peter Parker can deal with his problems, and Tobey and Andrew are used in a way where it's more about inspiration and learning from each other and being able to work together, and Tom Holland finding himself as Spider-Man, as his own leader. And it's wonderful to see. Yes, they work together, and they work together very well, but they're all connected in some way. And the movie points this out in very, very amazing dialogue that is spoken between them, and it shows that even though they barely know each other, they know that they all have a responsibility to do good. And that's what makes it so impactful, is that Tobey and Andrew's Spider-Man are trying to help Tom Holland's Spider-Man realize what his responsibility as Spider-Man is.
Right. And
therefore, it makes it so much more impactful, and it makes their legacy that much stronger. This is very much a film about 3 generations of Spider-Man, but it's also about becoming Spider-Man. And it does that so well, especially since the entire movie, Tom Holland's Peter Parker is making every single decision.
Mm-hmm.
He is making every single decision. Yes, he gets help, but he still is making every single decision. He's coming up with the plans. He's coming up with how he deals with things. He is in charge of how he deals with his emotions as well. And it's really refreshing, and I know this is really sad, but it's refreshing to see him getting put through the ringer.
Mm-hmm.
He gets fucked in this movie, physically and mentally, and it is brutal. The action sequences in this film are less action sequences and more Tom Holland's Peter Parker getting the fuck beaten out of him. and it's phenomenal to see that a Spider-Man movie this size can have such genuine emotion.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say whenever you mentioned like the generations of Spider-Man, and like it's so crazy to me that such a wacky and just outrageous movie idea in terms of like having three Spider-Man on screen and having the stress and the emotions that fans have for these characters, and it's such like, I mean, it's a Spider-Verse movie. You're bringing in, and it's not even Spider-Man. You see like other villains from other universes, and you're just like, oh my god, like what is this setting up with it? But it's so grounded in reality because yes, you're seeing like the dimensions getting ripped apart. Yes, you're seeing Willem Dafoe like and Doc Ock and all these other great villains that we've seen before, but yet it's probably one of the most human movies in the MCU.
It is the most.
It is the most human because you never really get to see like what a character goes through like Tom Holland has. Yes, we've had solo movies. Like Iron Man is obviously
a huge part of
that. But like Iron Man 1, because it's like, this billionaire goes from this rich asshole to someone's like, hey, we need to change the company real quick, and it's so like that character development I love, and that's probably one of my favorite MCU movies is Iron Man 1, but this one has definitely, like, No Way Home has definitely rung itself up to definitely top 3, just because in a world where every single superhero movie feels the need to do like witty banter at the end of like a serious scene, like at the end of like Black Widow in the post-credit scene where it's just that nice moment between Yelena and her sister's grave, and then all of a sudden Valentina shows up and she's blowing her nose and it's like, okay, whatever, and then it's just a Hawkeye setup. But there aren't any moments like that in this movie, and I'm very proud of Marvel for doing that, because like whenever Aunt May dies, I was like,
where's the funny quote?
Where's the funny quote? Like, where's, yeah. Like, and Tom Holland gets shot, too. Yeah. Like, as he's running away, as he's sad and beaten down, he just gets shot again. And it's like, and it reminded, like, that scene reminded me a lot of Outer Banks Season 2. Whenever, like, Sarah Cameron, I mean, it's been out for a while, so I can say
No, I'm not judging. I hate that fucking show.
No, I understand. I do, too, especially Season 2. But anyway, it's like that fake-out death with Sarah Cameron where it's like, oh, wow, like, she's actually going to die, but then she comes back to life, and it's, like, reversed, because she's sitting there talking to Peter, and she's like, I'm going to be okay, just listen to the sound of my voice, and, this isn't your fault, or whatever she says, but it's like, and then she just dies, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, it blew me away that so many things happened in the span of 2.5 hours, and yet it is definitely the most human Marvel movie in the MCU.
MCU, yeah. It's my favorite MCU movie. I found it to be absolutely brilliant in how it handled its character development and how it handled Peter Parker as a character and Spider-Man as a character and becoming oneself. I loved everything. I fucking loved everything about it. I thought it was phenomenal, and it doesn't go the route where the Spider-Men show up and then they become Tom Holland's Peter Parker becomes the trainee. Like, no, that doesn't happen. He's always his own Spider-Man. They just teach him how to deal with that, and they connect with each other because they all have such emotional experiences of losing someone, and they all have that connection with each other, and that's what makes that team up so emotional and so powerful. It isn't just a team up, it has meaning to it, and it feels like it's earned, and that's an amazing feeling I had with this movie. Also, another thing, I love how James Jonah Jameson actually had a scene where I felt like a part of his criticism of Spider-Man actually had some merit to it. It's right after Aunt May dies. It shows Peter Parker watching a broadcast right after it happens of James Jonah Jameson saying, this is what happens. If you think Spider-Man's a good person, well, this is what happens when he's around.
Well, that's a criticism for like every superhero.
I know, but it actually felt like it had weight to it. Where in the Raimi movies, Jonah Jameson, he feels like he's just comedic relief. In this film, it feels like he actually has, he's stupid. Yeah, he's still really fucking stupid, but there's at least something there where it's like he actually has some weight to the story. And
well, and I feel that because throughout the whole movie he's trying to make he's trying to undo what Mysterio did. Yeah. And so because he doesn't care about himself, he cares about his friends. And so with the whole world knowing who he is, and the whole world paying attention to the loudest person, which is usually what we do in the real world anyway, which is J. Jonah Jameson. And it just, because he hears it from Green Goblin, he's like, this is your fault, like, you did this, you put Aunt May in this situation, this is your fault, Peter. But then to like, because that's that one-on-one thing with him, with Green Goblin, and then he moves on, and then like he's having the whole world beat down on him as well, other than the people who are closest to him. But to have that feeling of like the world is closing in on you, especially at such a young age, and someone who is trying to just help, which is all he tries to do throughout the movie until like near the end, until like at the end of the second act where everything hits the fan. But
it shows who Spider-Man is.
Right, he's such a genuine person, but when you're dealing with so many ungenuine people, it messes everything up.
Or it's so many unhealthy people.
Unhealthy, yeah.
Something that I loved about this movie, and not a lot of people talked about, is how sympathetic Norman Osborn is as a character. Not Green Goblin, Norman Osborn. Norman Osborn, I felt fucking horrible for him. I felt so absolutely dog shit for him because I know he didn't want to hurt anyone. And he was just trying to help. But then he turns into, and then his
Green
Goblin fucks that up. So it's like, I hate him, but I sympathize with him.
Because it's like that. It's definitely that Jekyll and Hyde. Yeah, because you can't really. I mean, it's that other side. It's that other side of the coin that he can't control, and yet, because you're watching the movie and you're seeing this good side of Norman, and you're just like, oh, this is gonna end horribly. It's horrible, and it just keeps going and going and going, and then whenever he finally snaps, all that buildup, all that tension is coming, explodes onto the screen, and you're just sitting there like, oh my god, this is horrible. This is like,
it's like a fucking horror movie, man.
Exactly. It's the biggest build up to a jump scare if the jump scare is Willem Dafoe scaring the hell out of you.
He's fucking horrifying in this movie, man.
He's terrifying.
He still has it. He still has it, man. Like, Willem Dafoe is like one of the best actors working today, and he fucking outdoes himself again. Another thing that I absolutely love, and the last thing I want to talk about, is the end of this film. Holy fucking shit. Peter Parker makes one final decision at the third act of this movie. He tells Doctor Strange that he knows that in order to stop the multiverse from breaking and to allow all these Spider-Man, villains from coming in, he's like, make the world forget who Peter Parker is. And he makes that decision on his own. And when that happens, he takes that sacrifice, and that's when he truly understands what it means to be Spider-Man. Yeah. He protects his loved ones. He protects the people of the city. He knows what he's doing will affect him horribly, but he knows he's doing it as a responsibility, and he does it. And it is if not the best Spider-Man ending I've ever fucking seen. It is phenomenal.
Could we discuss the future of the MCU? Because that is something I like to talk about.
Yes. The first post-credit scene. Tom Hardy's like, oh, I'm Tom Hardy, Venom, knock the devil in. And then he gets transported back, right? Because, what's interesting? That means that Tom Hardy's Venom, or Eddie Brock, knows a Peter Parker in his universe. He's just not Spider-Man. because the people who got transported into the
Oh yeah.
So
Well, no, because it's so there is a Spider-Man in his universe.
there's not a Spider-Man. There's a Peter Parker though.
No, because the spell was make people forget that he's Peter Parker, and it brought in forget that he was Spider-Man, but it brought in everybody that knew
He was.
Peter Parker was Spider-Man.
But that would be impossible because there's no mention of Spider. And if this is not a debate, but I just want to say this really quickly. At the end of Let There Be Carnage, at the post-credit scene, he's like, he doesn't even know who
Spider-Man is. He's just like, oh, that's the bad guy.
So I think it's actually just he knows that there's a Peter Parker. Well, we'll have to see. We don't know yet.
Well, and that's the thing too, is like, what is this next trilogy going to be? Because with like the mention of like there should be a black Spider-Man, which there should be, because I mean I would love to see a live action Miles Morales.
Me fucking
and
too.
So I feel that with all of this stuff, especially with multiverse, you can do like me and Gabe were talking about infinite possibilities.
Yep.
Anything can change in the multiverse, and I don't think that this is going away anytime soon, because you've got Quantumania, you've got Doctor Strange 2, you've got what else? Fantastic Four. I'm sure you're going to see X-Men pretty soon.
Yep.
What If? All these things that have to deal with the multiverse and Kang and timelines and all that stuff. There's infinite possibilities. And so with the ending to Spider-Man and with the ending to Tom Hardy's time in the MCU, which I'm excited to see, because I know Sony is more than likely setting up their own anti-hero Sinister Six, which maybe we'll have to see where Morbius goes. But if you take a look at their roster, they're making a Kraven the Hunter movie. They've already got Venom. They're making a Morbius movie. They're taking a step off the beaten path in terms of if they decide to do a Sinister Six, because they had a very good opportunity to do it in No Way Home. They didn't do it, and you know what? I will agree with Gabe. Thank God they didn't, because if Mysterio showed up for some reason, if he was randomly just alive, or if there was like Rhino in it or something, it wouldn't have been impactful because every performance felt like it was the right amount of time and the right amount of writing and depth. And so with the future of the MCU going in, I mean, we've got Miss Marvel coming out. That's going to lead into the Marvels, and I've seen like set pictures of that like online floating around, and that one's just going to it's going to be a space epic, and just I am genuinely excited to see the multiversal side of this universe, and I feel that at the forefront of it is going to be Spider-Man in some way, or Spider-Man related characters, because like I've said before, we're going to have to see where Morbius goes, because there is no telling where that goes, because it mentioned San Francisco, which Venom was a part of, but he wasn't a part of the MCU yet, because he wasn't in San Francisco. He was in Mexico the whole time. They mention, he even mentions like, I am Venom. No, I'm just kidding. I'm Dr. Michael Morbius, and blah blah blah. But then you've got the Sam Raimi Spider-Man saying murderer on it, implying that maybe there is a Peter Parker in that universe. Yeah. Because if he's a part of the Venom verse,
maybe it's Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. We don't know.
Yeah, and so they've even got Sam Raimi directing Doctor Strange 2.
I'm so excited.
And so there really is, and that's what I think is the most fun part about being a Marvel fan, especially at this time post Endgame, is the theorizing, is the discussions we have. I mean, shit, we've been talking for what, like 20 minutes now, probably 24. Yeah, it's gonna be a long ass video. But with Marvel and Kevin Feige at the forefront, and then he's got two other people. One girl's doing the animation side of Disney Plus, and the other person is doing the live action side of Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. It's a good time to be a Marvel fan.
Yep.
And there is so much coming down the pipeline that I'm sure none of us even know anything about, other than everything they revealed for Disney Plus Day. But I am so excited to see where it goes, because while it's going to get more complex, it's going to. I feel like it's going to bring a lot more people in.
Wow. Well, you got just a tiny bit off track, but that's fine. We're excited for Marvel's future, the MCU's future, Marvel in general. I'm excited for their future, and this movie was amazing. There's still things I'm thinking about in my mind right now. Actually, new things popped up. So, yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching this. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave a like. Tell me what your guys' favorite moment of the movie was. I'd love to hear what you guys think of the film in general. I'd love to talk to you guys about it in the comment section. But that's enough for now. And until then, I will see you guys in the next video. And he may too. So, bye.